everybody wants to be happy. Is there anybody who doesn't want to be happy? Now, are all people in the world very happy? Or some people are unhappy? Or many people are unhappy? In certain countries, many, millions of people are very unhappy. Isn't it correct? Also, in some other countries where the material civilization has far advanced and abundance of material things. I mean, very rich and powerful and so on. But there are still millions of people very unhappy. So, question is why? Some people are happy and some people are not happy. And in Buddhism, the Buddha taught that mind creates all the things in the world, including one's own happiness or unhappiness, is the mind. If the mind is out of order, like a computer, the hardware or the software is infected with the virus, then the computer does not work right. Isn't that correct? And human mind too. The Buddha taught that every human beings are endowed with what is called the Buddha nature. Buddha nature means enlightened nature. Enlightened nature, if that functions right, then one will understand the ultimate principle of the universe, and will also understand that everything one enjoys or suffers is created by one's own mind. And you know that there are millions of people who are very rich, and also they have some great power, like political power and so on. But not all of them are all very happy. Some of them are very, very unhappy. And their families too. In your daily life, you experience, sometimes you live in what is called the heavenly world. You experience heaven. Some people may think that when you listen to Michael Jackson's music, you are in heaven. Young people, I mean. Am I right or wrong? Some other people will only think when you listen to like a Beethoven or Bach or Tchaikovsky, you will experience like the moments of real happiness. Isn't that correct? Some other people cannot be satisfied with that one, so they take drugs. It's a total mistake, misunderstanding. Thousands of people are simply hooked to those drugs, and then they virtually destroy their lives. So, the necessary condition for happiness is to have a sound mind, a mind which create either happiness or unhappiness. And when I say sound mind, the mind which is not infected with wrong views, wrong thought, and so on. It doesn't matter where you are, what is the level of your economic and intellectual level. Happiness does not depend on how much money you have or political power you have, or even you have a PhD, and it does not. Many people with a PhD are very, very unhappy, you know. So what is necessary for happiness is to have a sound mind, a mind which Master Chung, the second patriarch of WonBuddhism, is the key. So if you have a sound mind, you can create happiness all the time, even if you are not very rich. You know, your mind, a whole day, your mind is functioning until you go to sleep. Some people have their mind somehow is out of order, in a sense. Like what? Sometimes they feel lonely, very lonely. Sometimes they feel depressed. Sometimes they are paranoid. Some students are easily paranoid, especially graduate students, you know, when they have some problems with their major advisors. You see, when they write their thesis or dissertations, I saw quite a few people who suffer from paranoia, you see. It all depends on the spiritual power. So spiritual power I'm talking about, I am going to use the Master Chung's method of mind improvement, which you see, which I used last year. And I was thinking whether I should continue this one or I would introduce something else, and I decided to use this one again, because this is like bread and butter, which you eat every day. You know, this is not something you hear once or 1 year and forget about it. Because if you follow this as the standard of the mind improvement, the final goal is to become like a living Buddha, or attain the spiritual power which the Buddha had. And as a necessary condition, for some people it's a sufficient condition for happiness. But I am not claiming this is a sufficient condition for happiness. Why these days you must have enough money to live, right? To live. And you have to be a good citizen, which means you don't violate any laws, civil laws or penal laws. Because if you violate the laws, no matter how much money you have, you end up in jail. Isn't that correct? And that is unhappiness. And how many people are in jail today in America? Out of over 300 million US citizens, the last statistics showed that maybe 2 million US citizens are in jail and 1 million homeless. That means 1 out of every 100 people is either in jail or homeless. You see? The richest, the most powerful country in the whole world, there are, 1 out of every US citizen. And there are more and more billionaires. And in proportion to that one, there are more and more homeless. And that is the fate of capitalism. Capitalism is based on greed. You know that? And as I mentioned several times, Roman Empire was not destroyed because it's so strong, not by external power, but it was destroyed within, because the spiritual phenomenon of the Roman Empire was all rotten. So inside it was all rotten, and when it was ready to die, an external power came and put it into the coffin. I'm worried about the USA. There are more and more billionaires. They're smart. But not all of them are like Bill Gates, who made a great contribution to human civilization, human culture, you know. And thanks to him, I could make this very easily. You know what I mean? Using my word processing. I'm so thankful to him. When I wrote a book, also, you know, I'm indebted very much to his idea of the Microsoft, you know what I mean? But there are other billionaires who didn't make any contribution, and they're still billionaires. You know, when one billionaire comes out, then there are maybe thousands of people become homeless. That's the way the capitalism works. Communism died earlier, and there's no guarantee that this richest country in the whole world will continue as it is. It needs some moral training. But you know, that is almost impossible these days. Even at school, there is no moral indoctrination at the public schools. Isn't that correct? No way. So I'm worried about the future of this country. As I mentioned, Roman Empire was not destroyed by external power. This country, if continues this way, you remember the 2008 economic debacle was based on greed and stupidity, foolishness. Greed and stupidity are two of the three poisons of mind, as the Buddha taught. Three poisons of greed, anger and hatred, and the delusions of foolishness, ignorance, stupidity. Those are, according to the Buddha in the book Dhammapada, the ultimate rock bottom cause of all human misery, individual and collective. In individual life too, family life. If the head of the house suffers from any of the three poisons, then the family life will be horrible. Okay? So, we are talking about the mind. The mind is the creator of all the happiness or unhappiness. Okay? So in a Hawaiian Buddhist scripture, it says, everything is the creation of the mind. Whether you are going to create a happy life or unhappy life, it all depends on your mind. Ideally, this truth should be taught as early as possible in one's own life, especially like even teenagers, if they understand this truth, you know, and that would be great. So the founder of WonBuddhism said, fortunately, in the coming year, in the era, many people will be enlightened to their own Buddha nature. Inside you have the enlightened nature, which is not functioning for most people. The circle you see is the pointer, like a finger, pointing to your own Buddha mind or Buddha nature inside. And once you are enlightened, then the light of the wisdom will shine.